All right, friends, welcome back to Beyond the Weekend. My name is Matt Edmonds, and I get to host this podcast for just a couple of weeks. And this is a pretty fun week because got two guests here. Really glad to have both of you here. So, Sarah Martinez, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. How's it going?
It's going quite well for me. And you've got you've got a story to share. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But our second guest, Andrea Cornwell.
Hello.
Andrea, so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so thrilled to have both of you here. And then, of course, look over here over my shoulder. As always, Mr. Paul Heath.
Hello.
Absolutely love seeing you every week, my friend.
Nobody else gets to see me. Just you.
All right. Well, so we're here, and we're gonna over this next few minutes, we're gonna talk community groups because you're both in community group together, and something very unusual happened in your community group with the relationships in that group, and I cannot wait to dive in and hear that story and hear what happened, and we'll talk through all that on as it all relates to this particular series we're going through, Forming Friendships in a Lonely World. So we're gonna get to all of that in a few minutes, but first, we're gonna pass it off to the master of ceremonies. The king of get-to-know-you questions.
Okay, would you rather be able to run 100 miles an hour
Ooh.
or fly 10 miles an hour?
Run 100, like your body is
So when I
pumping
originally
to work to run 100
Yeah.
miles an hour.
when I
Okay,
originally
or-
thought about this, I was like, would it take the energy? Like, how much energy would it take? I think they're both effortless because I don't know
Okay.
how much energy goes
Okay.
into flying
Yeah.
10 miles an hour. I can't really
All right,
think
that's
about
fair.
that. So
Yeah.
I think they're both effortless. It's
Got
just
it.
a matter of, are you traveling on roads, paths, 100 miles an hour, or are you going as the crow flies
That's fair.
10
Okay.
miles an hour?
And then I need to ask one more point of clarity, and that is this the only mode of transportation? In other words,
I don't think
if,
so.
If I'm walking to the kitchen, am I going to the kitchen at 100 miles an hour? Like, and I
No,
can't-
no,
Okay,
no.
all right. Okay.
Good clarification.
That
though.
is
All right.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so who wants to kick it off?
I can go ahead and kick it off.
Sarah Martinez,
Yeah.
take
I think I would choose the run 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
My number one reasoning for that is I am very afraid of heights. So I think
If you
Yeah.
could fly, why would you be scared of heights?
well, see, but does your fear disappear just because you are effortlessly flying?
Isn't the
Maybe over
fear
time.
that you get hurt and you wouldn't get hurt if
Yeah,
you could fly?
that's a good point.
Is that the fear?
As long
I
as
don't
you're
know.
good at it. As long
Yeah.
as you're good at it.
Or
I have to
like
dive into that. If,
like you're flying right along the surface.
At 10 miles an hour.
You're just
Yeah.
hovering.
Yeah, yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's basically
well, in
just
that
a scooter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if
Yeah.
I wasn't very high in the air.
Yeah, you're not,
I
you're not
hadn't-
50,000 feet in the air.
See, I think about it too logically. It felt like I was
All right.
really high up in the
I
air.
don't think you're thinking about it. No, I don't think you're thinking about it logically enough because you don't know how scary it is to go 100 miles an hour. That is
You're-
terrifying.
You're
true.
so right.
If you take a twig to the face at 100
Yeah.
miles an hour, that is
Okay, maybe I should
Painful.
change my answer. I'm feeling a little called out.
No.
Can I tell you
Stick
that?
with it.
Okay, so one time I was on. My brother-in-law had a motorcycle, and it was like a little like ninja or whatever. And he took me on a ride, and so I was on the back of the bike. And I
Did he
remember
go 100 miles an hour?
I'm sure he went 100 miles an hour. He went so fast. He went so fast that when I like kind of looked around him, so I leaned to the side, right? I could literally feel my eyelids flapping in the wind.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, I felt like, no, it was super gross. And then I had to like get back behind him, kind of hide behind him a little bit. Yeah, it was.
Are we all going 10 miles an hour of flying because of how scary 100 miles an hour is now?
Well,
Potentially.
if you've experienced the flapping eyelids, okay, then
it might change your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
All right.
I shouldn't have answered first.
Andrea,
I needed other people's thoughts.
Andrea, what are you taking?
This is not because of the eyelids, but I would say fly.
Flying.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes. I think yesterday I was talking about how I wish I could fly.
Uh-huh.
I think it
Sure.
comes up at least once a month for me.
Wow. Okay, that's
10 miles an hour is not slow.
And
Yeah.
and like it's like
That's
a nice glide,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
So
I was using this question
so
to
cool.
calculate how fast I could get. Like, my mom lives 2.5 hours away.
Oh.
And then I was like, I don't know what would be faster, though, if I just went straight there at
Uh-huh.
10 miles an hour.
Yep.
Clearly, I don't know how many miles that is because it's probably way longer to do that than to go 100 miles an hour just on I-5 next to the cars.
Yep.
Yeah, you might get pulled over on the way back.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I do think I'm running 100 miles an hour. Because I think at the end of the day, I want to be more efficient. I want to get there faster. And I think that like 10 miles an hour, like, because even if you get in your car and you drive, you're like, at least I can drive 60 miles an hour on the freeway, or I can slow this thing down and fly at 10 miles an hour. There's no way. I'm picking running at 100 miles an hour with the flappy eyelets.
Does it change your answer if it's 20 miles an hour and 200 miles an hour?
Oh, yeah. There's no possible way I want to run 200 miles an hour.
I think you might not have eyelids.
Yeah, no. Or I need some sort of special running goggles. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you do your hair that day.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Paul, did you pick one over there? Yeah. You
I think I'm gonna do the running.
You are? Okay. Final
Yeah.
answer. You're gonna lock that in.
Minority.
Yeah, I think so.
So speaking of running, you just went to the Portland Marathon.
I did.
Yeah, you didn't run in the marathon.
No.
Okay, you were there supporting?
I was. Yeah, supporting a friend. Yep.
All right. So the Portland Marathon, well, any marathon, let me back up. During the weekend message, I gave the cowbell illustration. And during a marathon, during a run, I feel like you see more of those little cowbells than any other sporting event, including I talked about high school football games, where you see a bunch of those little cowbells. Hold on a second. I got one. One of these guys. I know our podcast listeners can't see it unless they're watching on video. Thanks for tuning in. But you can hear it. Little tiny baby cowbell right there. Yeah. So I'm sure you saw a bunch of those at the Portland Marathon.
And I heard lots of them.
Did you see any of these? One of these monsters.
No.
One of these gigantic cowbells.
Absolutely not.
Paul, what would happen if I rang this in the studio right now?
Probably not anything crazy.
Like it wouldn't break all the microphones and they just shatter and hit the floor?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. But I won't.
Wow,
you don't see cowbells on
just
cows.
Just in case.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I've seen cowbells.
Wait, can I ring it in here?
Sure, yeah.
Can I ring it in here?
Go for it.
All right. Ladies, are you ready? So here's the beauty of this particular cowbell. This is not only is it crazy loud, I mean like well over 100 decibels when I'm ringing it. When I ring this cowbell, my Apple Watch will notify me of the loud noise.
It says you're too near a cow right now. It sounds like you're next to a cow.
What's your Apple Watch do, Paul? When it says like the decibel level's too high,
you're over 90 decibels.
Yeah. So anytime I ring that, and I try to ring it for about a minute. Anytime something happens during the football game. So really to the point when it makes everyone around me kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or until my wife squeezes my leg. So.
Yep.
But this cowbell right here, this was actually my dad had this when he was in high school. My dad graduated from Columbia River in 1971, and I don't know where he found it, but then he painted it all gold, painted CR on it, and then it just kind of got handed down through the generations. So then when I went to Columbia River, then I had the cowbell. Well, my sisters went there, and then I went there, and then we all ring the cowbell now it just.
So don't you have a son at Columbia River?
I got a son at Skyview.
Oh,
so even though it's a Columbia River cowbell, it's still getting rung at the Skyview games.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah, but all right. Let me put this. Here's what I want to do, ladies. I want to talk to you about community group, okay? Because this series that we're in, Forming Friendships in a Lonely World, this week we were talking about a friend who shows up and demonstrates kindness and helps in a time of need. So, you're both in a community group. You've experienced some of this, and we'll get to that story in a minute. But talk to me about your community group for a minute, all right? So you've both been in community group for how long together?
Coming up on 3 years, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of since community groups really started here at New Heights. So kind of you were early adopter. Love hearing that.
Yeah.
So you've been in community group, and obviously community groups don't just have two people in it. So talk to me. Who's in your community group? Is it a big community group? What's the life stage? Are you two the youngest, the oldest, the only two ladies? Is it all ladies? Talk to me about your community group.
We have historically had a large group. I think this year we're at 17.
Yeah, which might be
Oof.
our biggest, or I mean,
No.
no.
Last year we were 18.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Large group.
One big happy family, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so just
We have
practically,
very sick.
I know I'm interrupting you already. Practically, where do 17 or 18 people gather
It's
on
not
a weekly
easy.
basis?
It's not easy.
We have a few key living rooms.
Okay, all right.
Where we pull
good.
back the couch. And
Yep. Start
squeeze in
moving
the chairs.
furniture.
Yeah,
Yep.
sit on the floor in
Okay.
front of the
On the floor.
people
That's
on
good.
chairs.
Okay, that's
yeah.
good. That's good. Okay.
There's not a lot of options though.
Okay, so there's 17 or 18 of you in the group.
Yeah.
And then give me life stages.
Roughly 22 to 30. Kind of that
Okay.
stage of life.
Yeah.
20s.
So you
Okay.
have a range.
Yeah.
People in school. People. Well, I don't
Okay,
know that
some-
anyone's in undergrad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
but-
we're all out
We
of
graduated
college.
that stage.
Got
Yes.
it. All right. Okay. So no undergrad, but you said some in school. So like graduate level work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. A few of us in grad school. Lots of us working. Most of us working.
Yeah.
Some married,
Some
some,
married,
not
Some
married.
married.
Yeah.
Some
Any
dating.
parents? Any parents?
parents.
Okay. So no little kiddos.
Nope.
No.
Some
Okay.
dog parents.
Okay.
but,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got your fur babies.
dog moms,
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And you said some dating.
Yes.
Yes.
Some dating each other in group.
Yes.
You don't need to give any names. You don't need to give any names. Okay. Okay. Some are dating in group. All right.
Yep.
Did they meet in the group?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. That's enough about them. 'Cause I don't want to call them out. So, it sounds like a young adult group.
Yeah.
Yeah, in their 20s and 30s.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Some married, some single. So, as a group, give us some of your favorite memories together. Good times, funny times. What stands out as like this was a highlighted community group over the past 3 years?
Probably the communion story is a good story.
Communion story. Okay. Anytime a group has a quote communion story. All right, we got to hear this.
Take it away.
Oh,
And if you need to, to protect the people behind the scenes.
I don't know
Identity.
that we do.
I don't.
Okay. All right.
We're one big happy family.
Well, bring it on. Tell us the communion story.
Well, end of community group session, we're taking communion together as a
Yep.
group.
We do that from time to time.
We do.
Yep.
And we had very crunchy crackers on one of these.
Time
I feel
out.
like they
Okay,
were
I got
like
questions already. Like, do you mean like a Ritz or like a saltine
No.
or what?
Like we can accommodate the gluten-free people. So one of
Okay.
those like gluten-free rice
Got it.
crackers that
Yeah.
Got it.
aren't
Yeah.
that tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
But
with you.
easy.
Okay. So it's extra crispy, extra crunchy, and probably extra loud when you're chewing on that thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely extra.
All right.
Yeah. So we, talked through what communion means, went to take communion together, kind of prefaced with, okay, we're all going to take communion. We're going to take the bread at the same time. Partially because it's so loud.
Right. And
Okay.
like after a little bit of time to reflect and
Yeah.
pray and
Exactly.
that sort of thing.
Okay, so there is the difference.
silence.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
after this moment of silence and prayer,
Exactly.
yeah, reflection, then we all partake together.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I see where this is going. All right, take it away. Tell us what happened.
You got this part.
So everyone gets their little gluten-free rice cracker, and which this is sounding so like millennial Gen Z, and we're all like sitting in our big old circle and praying, and then all of a sudden you just hear this crunch,
Yes.
and we're all doing that thing where we're
Who didn't get the memo?
Yeah. Like you look around,
Who didn't
kind
get
of
the
open your
memo?
eyes.
Yeah, we're
Oh.
like purring and kind of like looking
Uh-huh.
up, and lo and behold, Levi Sparks.
Oh, okay. We just called him out. We just called him out. Paul, is there a way to like beep over the name? Okay.
No.
Oh, there's not. Okay.
Sorry, Levi.
Sorry, Levi.
He was having
Okay.
a moment. He was
Yeah.
having a moment with
Moment with the Lord?
the body of Christ. Yeah.
Okay. With the cracker.
With the cracker.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
we
was
all,
a great.
We all had a good laugh.
We had
Okay.
a good laugh.
So that's
and-
the question. In that moment, he crunches down on that cracker, and is everyone like, "Gah!" and they all lose it? And is everyone like dying laughing now? Or are you still trying to like, okay, keep this moment? It's our moment of silence.
I think we laughed pretty hard. And then we had
Okay.
to kind of reel it back
Got
in.
it.
Say,
But
okay,
it-
back
it
to
was
this.
not easy to reel it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way community
It's
groups
a good
go.
moment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
sure. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the Levi. I mean, that's the Levi moment.
The Levi moment.
The communion
The communion moment.
story, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Anything else? Anything else come to mind?
I think it was our first community group last year. Am I gonna name drop again? Or
I think-
I think we're well beyond
We're-
that. Yeah.
We've
and
already jumped in.
our friend Josh Carlson, he took some parking liberties, and we were at my husband Matthew and I's house, and
Okay. And you guys live in a neighborhood? You live in an apartment
we
complex?
live in like
where-
the subdevelopment type neighborhood that
Okay.
is limited on parking.
Oh, sure. you
For
guys
a group
meet-
with 17 people.
You meet at your house, 17 cars come rolling in. Oh, sorry, neighborhood.
Yes.
There's no street parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And so we made it through most of group, and then we hear a knock on the door, and it's our neighbor, and he's like, do you know why there's a truck parked in my driveway?
Yes. Wait. Is he parked in the driveway
in
or
the
just
driveway.
blocking the driveway?
In like the middle of the driveway.
Unbelievable.
Like just backed himself
Yes.
into
And
the
we
driveway.
Yeah, we didn't tell him, you know, he just boldly
Yes.
parked it there.
Okay.
And, so Matthew's at the door, and he's like,
Wow.
looks back, and he's like, did anybody park in the neighbor's driveway?
Okay.
Josh is like, yep, that's me.
Oh, and he just knew it. Yep, it was me. I did it.
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
got up,
Wow.
moved the car, but
Andrea, had you met those neighbors prior to that moment?
gratefully, yes.
Okay.
Very
okay.
kind.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yep.
Because that would be quite the first meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, hey, I noticed that you guys have these 20 cars blocking my driveway every week. Okay, well, here's the wild thing. I mean, hearing you tell that story in our community group, one of the previous sessions, kind of a same thing. Someone in our community group, we're meeting at someone else's house, and someone in our community group pulled in front of the house, but was pulled across the street, looking at the house across the street, and that's where we're meeting, and just looking, said, "That's the house." Put it in park, get out of the car, and then walk into the house, not realizing that he just pulled in front of someone's driveway. So he's blocking their
no.
driveway. So he's not in their driveway, just straight across. So now their cars can't get out. So same story in the middle community group, ding dong, and then someone's like, "Hey, do one of you guys own this car out here?" And the guy in the group was like, "Yeah, that's me. Sorry about that." So he went,
I'm sure
Yeah.
look, we're not the only ones. I'm sure.
no,
this is
I'm sure.
there's-
I bet this happened.
Yeah,
Paul?
maybe we add a parking policy to the group.
You know, not that I can think of.
All right. No,
But-
no parking shenanigans in the Heath community group.
No, we
good.
all park
Alright.
very well. We carpool well.
Wow,
It's
so
just-
responsible.
Carpool well.
Wow,
We should
good
learn
for
that.
the
Yeah.
environment too.
Yeah, we-
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ladies have been in this community group for 3 years.
Yeah.
It sounds like you got lots of fun people in your group and friends who don't mind getting name dropped on the podcast, so that's good. Not that they had a choice, but
Exactly.
Maybe they mind. I don't know.
maybe they do.
We'll find out.
Yeah. You will indeed. And so, one of the great reasons, why I wanted you on this podcast is to share this story of this kind of unique story that unfolded. So, and it really centers around Sarah, your car,
Yes.
and kind of this tragedy that struck around your car. And then Andrea, you soliciting the help of community group to rally around Sarah to help her in this time of need. Now, to me, I just feel like this story, the little bits and pieces that I heard of the story, because I have not heard the story from start to finish. So this is fun for me to hear it from both of you, the source of the story. But I've heard pieces of this, but I think it just perfectly captures this passage we looked at today as part of this series, where how it looks like friendship in action when you have someone in the midst of a hardship. So I got to hear, Sarah, you have this car and something happens to it. Break it down for us. What happened to your car?
Yeah. So February of this year, I had a car that was 5 months old to me. And
That counts as a new car.
it counts
If you've
as a
only
new
got it
car
for 5
for
months.
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I had driven a beater for years and had finally saved up money and got a new car and was very excited about it and walked out to go to work one morning and my car was missing from my driveway.
After 5 months, only 5 months of owning
5
this
months.
car.
Yeah. And of course, the first thought that played through my mind was, did I park it somewhere else? Like, did I park it in front of my house and not in my driveway last night? Like,
Did you park it in your
you
neighbor's
play-
driveway?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
You play those things in your head. It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, it can't just be gone. Come to find out, it was gone. It had been
No.
stolen.
Duh.
Yeah. So,
That's a colossal headache, and
Yes.
and you're left like, well, now what?
yeah.
Because obviously you're saying you're going to work, you got life to live, and then suddenly you realize how dependent you are on this particular vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Transportation's a big thing for us.
Yeah.
Got to get to work somehow.
Okay, so you walk out,
Yeah.
car's missing, call the police, call
call insurance, you
Call
know,
insurance,
the
sure.
process.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The
Yep.
many steps, which I'm sure so many people have gone through.
Yeah.
I found out that more cars get stolen than I had thought when I went through this process. I said, wow, it's not a common thing, but it's also not an uncommon thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's
because-
becoming more common.
Yes,
So,
sadly.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So walked out. Wasn't there.
So then, now what? So now you're like, I don't have a car. I called the insurance. They're like, okay, great. Well, we'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Please say the same thing. And now what? Now how do you get to work that day?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I called out sick to work that day because it was like
Okay.
I'm not getting in. That's I start work at 6 a.m. That was well past at this point.
Okay.
So I had called out, but I was kind of in that point of, well, now I have to problem solve. Like, what does the rest of my week look like? And what does what's the process of finding a stolen car? All of that
Right.
stuff. So I had texted a bunch of my friends, which happened to be my community group, and said, hey, just want to let you know this is what's gone down, and would you be praying that. And my thought process at that time was, will you just be praying that the car shows up,
Of
that
course.
they, track
Yeah.
down this car really soon?
That it shows up, it's undamaged.
Exactly.
It's still got the stereo in it.
Yeah.
It hasn't just been stripped out.
Exactly.
On 4 cinder
no,
blocks.
no massive damage
Right.
done to the car.
Yep.
And had just, texted them and said, hey, can you be praying today? I'll let you know as I hear more. And, but just, yeah.
And by the way, can I just say that I know I'm interrupting here, but
Yeah.
that I love that your community group, you're so close to your community group that one of your first thoughts is, I'm going to shoot them a text and ask them to be praying for me.
Yeah.
So Andrea, you get this text from Sarah.
Yeah.
You remember this?
Yes, I remember it. I remember I was so sad because anyone that knows Sarah knows that she, of all people, doesn't deserve to have her car stolen. And yeah, and I remember praying for, because it's like, we all know how, dependent we've come to be on, to
course.
get from point A to point B.
Yep.
And I also thought, I'm like, how's Sarah going to get to all the volunteer things she volunteers at with the church?
Yeah, Sarah.
Because
'cause
Sarah...
it does feel like you're at New Heights kind of every day of your life, volunteering in lots of different
I
capacities.
am a little bit,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah.
So
Yes, she's
Yeah.
yes, has a servant's heart. So yeah, that's how I felt. And then we continued to pray, and I think we had community group probably like 4 days later, something.
Yeah, within a few days,
later.
of course.
Yeah.
Within a few days, and had the car turned up at that point?
No, it had not turned up at that point.
Okay.
It was a long process. I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but it turned up a few weeks later.
Okay.
So that's an
So-
added part to
Great.
this.
So tell us what happens next. Because I know the community group played a big role in this whole car story. So
Yeah.
how did that come about?
Yeah, we had community group a few days later, and kind of shared that I didn't have any more information other than I had talked to my insurance company, and they had said, well, if your car doesn't show up, we're kind of valuing these cars at less than what they're originally worth, because Hyundais and Kias were, so many of them were stolen in this last year. Yeah, so the insurance was like, we're just letting you know up front that there is a high possibility that we don't value your car at what you paid for it. And I just bought it 5 months earlier, so the panic sets in of,
Right.
this is probably not gonna, it's not gonna cover the worth of the car or what I had in a loan.
Oh, that's
so.
devastating. It's like getting punched while you're already down.
Yeah, car's missing, and now possibility you owe money on it. So
Yes. Oh, you would owe money on a car that now you don't even own anymore.
Yes, that is missing.
Yep, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That's devastating.
yeah, so I came to the community group kind of with that information a
Mm-hmm.
few days later, and just saying, hey, can you guys continue to pray?
Yeah.
I don't really know what my next steps are, and I was feeling very, from a practical note, can't really do much with that. But then also from just just feeling really sad, and how do I move forward with this? How do I trust that God is working in this? I felt like I'd put so much time and energy and effort into saving up money to get that car in the first place my first thought was, no, not after all of this work. Where do I go from here? So I came to my community group with kind of all of those thoughts and emotions and said, will you just pray with me? Because I know there's a way forward, but I don't really know what that looks like or how to be faithful in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, Andrea, you hear that at the community group, and then, of course, you have compassion on her. You feel terrible for her, and then, is this where a plan is hatched to help her?
Yeah, I think the wheels started turning.
Okay.
Probably.
Talk to us about
at that
that.
point in time. I just like, I felt just compelled to reach out to people and see, you know, what we would be able to rally up to help Sarah.
And you're talking finances.
Yeah.
So is that what you mean?
Yeah.
So you send a note. So talk to me about that. So community group ends. You're thinking we can help, like, what, bridge that gap? Because it sounds like there's going to be a financial gap from even if she gets the car, or even if she doesn't get the car back, then there's some financial gap, or she's going to have to buy a new car, or you know, it's all this, you know, pay off the loan or whatever. So there's financial stress, financial strain, and you think, well, maybe we can jump in and help with some of that.
Yeah. I was like, well, maybe we can at least like help cover, you know, like the remaining cost of the previous car. So then at least she can start from, you know,
Ground zero.
Start from zero instead of from a
Yeah.
deficit. And I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. And so, you know, I sent out a group text to our community group, minus Sarah.
Of course.
I had no idea this was happening.
You didn't.
I had
no idea.
I had
Okay.
no idea at this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I just sent out like a brief text, you know, kind of saying like, obviously we all know what's going on with Sarah, and if you feel like you're in the place to give, like, we'd love to collect some money and maybe try to cover like half of the payment or all of it, whatever, you know, like really anything helps. But, you know, of course, no pressure. We're all young adults, you know, like making lots of big life decisions without lots of money is the reality. And then I set my phone down, and I think I looked at it like an hour later, and I had like at least $800 in my Venmo.
Whoa. Okay. That's
Like-
quick response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Like,
Yeah.
people are just like, absolutely,
Wow.
we love Sarah, we care for her, like, and just wanted to contribute.
That's incredible. So, Andrea, were you thinking like 800? That was my financial goal here. Were you, before you even sent the request out? What were you thinking in terms of? Well, maybe we could pool our money and we could collect this amount. Did you have a dollar amount in your head?
Probably like $350.
350 was your goal.
Yeah.
Okay. And then within an hour, all the friends and community group had put together 800. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then it just kept building. And I texted a few people outside of our community group too that I knew were close with Sarah, and those people contributed too.
Wow.
And I think us as young adults came up with about $1,500 for Sarah, which was
So generous.
obviously like
Yeah.
blew my
course.
expectations out of the water.
That's cool.
And like, it was so evident that the Lord was just working in our hearts and in this like spirit of generosity in people. And I was getting Venmos from like friends of friends, and, you know, people that I didn't know,
People that you didn't know, but obviously
But
they
that
knew
knew Sarah.
And they're like, hey, I know this girl. I want to help her out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's incredible. So then what? So now you've collected the money. And now there's got to be a moment to hand it off or to tell Sarah, hey, here's what's been going on behind the scenes. Are we jumping to any steps, or was this kind of the next thing that happened?
I think that's kind of the next thing.
Next week at community
Yeah,
group?
we hadn't really chatted much that week,
Very cool.
so that was kind of the next check-in point.
Okay. So
Yeah.
bring us into that space. So community group starts, and everyone in community group knows, like, okay, hey, we've all been doing this thing for Sarah, and I'm sure there's kind of like a little excitement in the air,
Yeah.
right? And people are pretty excited to be able to give this gift to you. So community group, everyone shows up, and then what happens? How does that work?
Do you want to share?
Well, so they actually waited until we broke up into prayer times,
Okay.
which I appreciated. I'm a crier. If people know me, they know that I cry at the smallest things, but definitely with something like this would probably cry.
Okay.
And I'm also not. I don't really love the focus and attention being on myself, which, I mean, it's silly, and sometimes that's just what community is and
Yeah.
caring for people. But I appreciated the kind of smaller conversation that started to then be able to bring back into the larger group. But the ladies basically came to me in prayer time and said, hey, here's a card from us. Like,
Okay.
we've just been praying for you this week. Here's a card.
Okay.
And I opened the card with,
Okay, wait, hold on one second.
Yes.
Were you expecting her to open the card in that moment?
Yes, because it wasn't in an envelope.
Oh,
So I feel
okay.
like
it was
was like
presented to
it was
us.
like
Okay.
a hand,
Okay.
like it was
Got
like
it.
Yeah,
Got
like
it.
a handmade card, so it didn't fit in
Okay.
an envelope.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't have time to
Because we've all been in that place before.
Yes.
When you get a gift and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
am I supposed to open it right now or should I wait?
I think
Yeah.
she might
Okay.
have done it on purpose because
Okay.
she knows I don't like
Got
the
it.
attention.
Honestly,
Got it.
I
Good.
wish I'd thought that much.
So it's a card. It's a card, no envelope, and what? Money inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And my first response was just to cry. I don't think I had words right away because I also didn't know that this was happening and didn't know that my community group had all texted each other and raised this money. But the part that I also shared with them in this moment is that same week, there were other people not involved in this text Andrea sent that had also reached out to me and said, hey, we heard about your situation. We'd love to help out financially. So I came into the group that day saying, I have an update to give you all because the Lord's been doing all of this work and there's money that came in that I wasn't expecting.
Wow.
All while at the same time, my community group was having the same conversation and then coming to me and saying, this is what we've been doing this week.
Yeah.
So I only had tears in the moment. I think it was probably the next group that I really shared my gratitude because I think my response truly was like, I don't have words.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be a pretty overwhelming moment for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to see
Yeah.
that the generosity of your friends, your closest friends in your community group, of come together and help you in this pretty, very real, very tangible kind
Yeah.
of way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
Andrea, in that moment, in that moment, you hand her the card, and all the other ladies in the group waiting,
Yes.
waiting for her to open it.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah. Everyone's staring intently at Sarah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I think just giving space for the moment. And
Yeah, of course.
I think we all probably cried a little bit.
That's allowed in community
Yeah,
groups from time to time.
exactly.
Okay. All right.
It happens a lot.
Or
at
often,
ours. Yeah. It wasn't an abnormal occurrence, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons, like I said, I've heard kind of bits and pieces of that story, and so thank you for bringing me up to speed, and thank you for sharing that with our larger church body here, and because it's fun to hear how exactly that community group comes together to support one of their members in need.
Yeah.
And so now, in hindsight, since then, I want to find out if you have advice for community groups. Like if community groups have someone in their group or someone they know, or even be outside of the community group model. We talked about this weekend. You got a friend who's entering into a hardship. How do you demonstrate real tangible friendship in the midst of that hardship? So I want to ask you about that. But first, I feel like we don't have the full story about the car. So I feel like we got to close the loop on the car.
Exactly.
So
what happened?
Sarah, are you still carless?
I am not still carless.
Okay. All right. So what
Praise
happened
the
next?
Lord.
What happened?
Yeah, it was a long process. It took insurance takes a few months to
Sure
sort
does.
out those things, and there was so much generosity. I mean, there was the generosity in the finances with my own community group and other community groups that had heard. Like it just felt like the more people found out about this, the more generous people were, which was just overwhelming. And
Yeah.
then not only that, I was in this process with insurance where they were like, it's going to take a few months. So, and we don't cover a rental car. So what does that look like? And Andrea's parents actually loaned me a car for those 2 months.
That's so great.
Yeah, it just felt like, again, the generosity of people was just so overwhelming because I didn't really know where to look other than to ask people for prayer. And none of it even, my only thought was prayer. I just need prayer. I don't know the answer to any of this. I don't know how to get more finances or how to start the process of looking for a new car, especially because, who wants to... car buying is just frustrating, even in the best of circumstances.
That's not a fun activity for anyone.
Exactly.
Sure.
So, there was just so much generosity. And with the finances given, I was not only able to pay off what I still owed on the car that had been stolen, but put a down payment on a new car.
Wow. Okay.
Well beyond what I had saved for years for my other car. So it was just not only did the Lord provide in making it so I wasn't just starting from ground zero, but exponentially provided in the fact that this was best case scenario, like way better than I could have pictured for myself.
I love
that day that car got stolen.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Yeah. So have a car, which is great.
Yeah,
Can get
okay.
from point
That's
A to
good
point
news.
B.
That's good news. So that means you can drive to places like New Heights Podcast and
Exactly.
share that
Exactly.
story. So, okay, so Sarah, let me ask you, as long as you're wrapping up your side of the story there, so what do you feel like you learned about the Lord's provision, or what did you learn about generosity, or what did you learn about your friends? What'd you take away from that whole experience?
Yeah.
And if you don't have one thing, you can shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Give us a couple
the
of things.
pieces of it. Yeah. Gosh, I think the biggest thing was that it really, the Lord really does work in community.
bet.
It's not just, I think for me, the one who's not often, I don't want to sit and talk about myself. Like, that's not how I want to hear what other people are up to, hear their stories. But I think God reminded me in that moment that like community's there for a reason. Like vulnerability and like doing life with the people that are put around you, that God has placed around you, truly is like the best way to live life for Jesus. And I think being in a scenario like that, it just felt so tangible.
Yeah.
Like it was very much the Lord's provision, but also a reminder that like when people tell you they care about you and want to do life with you, they mean it.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a nice thing to say because we all meet together once a week. It
Right.
truly is like, I'm showing up for you and I'm caring for you and I want to do life with you outside of the walls we meet in once a week. And I think that was a huge piece of it. And I think in terms of what the Lord has taught me, it's just been a reminder of his faithfulness in my life. And even other hard things I've experienced since, it's been a reminder to say, I was there for you.
Yeah,
I showed up.
You can point back to that.
Yeah.
You can point back to it and say,
Yeah.
I remember seeing the Lord show up in a significant way. Then
Exactly.
you can show up again.
Yeah. Like if God can do that, God can do anything,
Wow.
which I mean is true time and time again, but
Yeah.
it feels like a very tangible reminder that that in something that seemed overwhelmingly big to me ended up being so small because, so many people cared about it and like God just used community to provide for that. That's something that felt like, overwhelmingly large problem was actually not a large problem and people cared a lot.
I love hearing it because exactly what you're saying, that's the essence of community group getting lived out.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the finance of it. I don't mean, you should show up to community group because then you have to donate money.
Yeah.
I mean show up to community group because that's where people care for one another.
Yeah.
And the Lord can work through those relationships to support one another. And I absolutely love hearing that part of the story. Mm-hmm. Oh, Sarah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that part of your story. Andrea, when you reflect back on the experience, you got to know that there's people listening to this podcast. There's people in our church who, when they hear this story, they're like, yeah, there's someone in my community group, or there's maybe outside of the community group, there's someone in my life who I know has this challenge, this hardship, and maybe I can't, solve the whole thing by myself, but maybe I could rally a few people, and maybe we could get together and make a dent. And it doesn't have to be finances, but just kind of any challenge that comes their way.
Yeah.
But it's easy to be on the fence on that and be like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? I don't want to inconvenience people, or I don't want to, or, and we fill in the blank with all these excuses and all these reasons why we don't want to take that step. You took the step, and you boldly sent a note to your friends and to community group, say, hey, let's all jump in. So what advice, what would you share with someone who's on the fence? Like, should I support someone? Should I help someone, or should I not right now?
I think, as simple as it sounds, I would just say, you're never going to regret helping one of your friends, one of your community group members.
Of course. That's good.
I don't look back on last year and think about the financial piece of it or, the time commitment. I look back on how how God was able to provide through Sarah, through us.
Yeah.
More than anything. And so I think that's a big piece of it. And I think the other piece is willing to just take a baby step.
Yeah.
All I did was send a text. It's not that big of a deal. Or at least for
when you put it like that, when you put it in those terms, yeah, it does sound, you're like, yeah. That's a small, simple step. It's a small act, but it can have a tremendous impact.
Yeah. And God can use things like a small text.
You
And
bet.
I think it's, it depends on context, whatever
Yeah.
it looks like. But, in our circumstance, it was God multiplying one little step.
That's just it. And it's because I was going to say it snowballed.
Yeah.
Didn't snowball. The Lord blessed it. The Lord, it sounds like, multiplied the efforts there, and it moved beyond your community group. Sure, it started with your
Yeah.
community group, but it sounds like it moved beyond your community group.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a testament to the Lord's faithfulness. in
Yeah,
that.
and just moving in
bet.
people's hearts too.
Yeah.
And I think something else that I want to add to that is that I think it was such a testament to like what trusting God looks like in the little ways.
Yeah.
And I can be so possessive of my time and my money, and I feel like I'm constantly working on that. And
Andrea, that's
trying-
not you.
I
That's
know,
all
but
of us.
Exactly.
So when you say that, yeah, that's all of us. We're all possessive of our time and money.
Yes,
Of course.
absolutely. And but I think like a scenario like that, just like Sarah was saying, like I can look back to it
Yeah.
in a time when I'm struggling with trust and say, there was a time where I trusted God, and wow, like look how He came through. And so
You
I
bet.
think in the same way, like that's like just like an Ebenezer to what it looks like to trust God with our time and our money and our relationships too.
Ah, I love
Yeah.
it. I love all of that. So, ladies, thank you so much for coming in, sharing that story, and Sarah, for someone who says I don't really like a spotlight on me. Well, thanks for
You
sharing.
got me on a
Thanks
podcast.
for sharing your story here on the podcast. And I feel like the question that I'm dying to know then and is this: so you get the car, you drive it to community group. You don't park it in the neighbor's driveway. That's good.
Yeah. Mhm.
Was there a community group that was dedicated to like, okay, everyone gets to have a turn, like jump in the car, and Sarah, you drive everyone around the block? Don't you think that's like the appropriate next step?
We never did that, but we did all come out and look at the car.
Okay.
But
All right,
but maybe
that's
I
good.
mean it's only been like I don't know
There's
eight
still time.
months. We can
Okay.
we can do it now.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
this
think-
next group tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It will be parked in the driveway.
Yeah.
It was stolen from.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. It
so
won't be at my
maybe it
house
would be
tomorrow,
full-
so-
maybe
That's
it'll be
good.
full circle.
Yeah, I know. We just need to do one community group session dedicated to just trips
Yes.
around the block.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies, thanks again for sharing. Paul, anything here to wrap up, my friend?
No, I don't think so.
except that Paul and I want to go for a spin on the new car too.
Okay.
sometime.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies, thanks so much for sharing your story. And to all of our friends tuning in, thanks so much for tuning in to Beyond the Weekend. I invite you to back next week as we wrap up the series, Forming Friendships in a Lonely World. And we will hear from one more group of friends. And it's a story that I'm excited to share with you all. So invite you back next week. Thanks so much. God bless you.